meeting for Thursday, July 16th. I'd like to ask our clerk, Christian Sampson, to call the roll.
Councilman Deputy Supervisor Withers. Present. Councilman Charles.
Here.
Councilman Friedman. Here. Councilman Holman. Supervisor St. Lawrence.
Here.
Deputy Commissioner Hunter.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. I'd like to ask Councilwoman Logan Charles to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda are police matters. We have no public hearing, so we'll start off with you, Chief.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First thing I'd like to discuss is some of these statistics, and we have two documents that we prepared for this. One document will be comparing June of 14 to June of 15, and then the other document will be comparing the first 6 months of 14 to this first 6 months of 15. So we'll take the June to June now, and if you go down the document, there's not much of a deviation. I do like to point out down to the bottom third of the page, crimes. Our assaults are down. Last year in June we had 17. This June we had 6. Our burglaries are down from 8 to 5. Criminal mischief went up a little bit from 24 to 29. Larcenies went up from 44 to 55, and our sex crimes went from 1 to 5. Uniform traffic tickets issued are down, about 50 summonses. Our cell phone is up, and the school bus enforcement is down a little bit. The second document, we're going to be comparing the first 6 months of June of 14 to June of 15. Once again, there's not much of a deviation for the top half of the page. But we go down to the crimes. We are down 10 assaults for this 6 months compared to the 6 months in 14. Our burglaries are down by 9. The criminal mischiefs are up about 12. We had no homicides in either 6 month period. The larcenies are down by about 20. Robbery down by 3. Sex crimes are up by 2. So once again, there's not much of a deviation between those two periods of time. The uniform traffic summonses, they're down about 600. The school bus enforcement is up by 6. Cell phone enforcement is down by about 27 or so. And parking summonses are up about 500. So if you don't have any questions, or if you do, I'm gladly would entertain those questions now. But as you've seen, there's not much of a deviation between those time periods.
And it's always great for us to see these statistics, Chief, and to be able to compare them. But I also want the public to know that you can go on the Facebook with the town police on the Facebook page, and you'll get a daily report of all the activity of the department, and it's very impressive. So it is something that has these numbers, but more on a daily basis as well.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Supervisor. I have to compliment Captain Wydell. He took the spearhead, he took the lead on that, and as you did mention, it's addressed on a daily basis. All our residents can view it. There's a wealth of information there relative to not only the police department, but the town in general. And we receive thousands and thousands of, I think you call them hits, on that face page. So it's really good.
Great.
The other thing, part of my presentation, I always like to let the board know the community events that we've attended. And as I discussed with the board, we started an active shooting training for all our first responders. It's still incomplete. We've trained many of our first responders, our ambulance folks, and our fire department. It is more than just well received. It's a great benefit that we train with them. They have a good grasp of what would happen during any catastrophic event, not just only active shooting, but any time that we're going to have a mass situation where we're going to need a lot of our assets, volunteers, as well as our police officers. So we trained the Havaram group, we trained New Square Emergency Services. Spring Hill went to the drill. Spring Hill was very impressed with the drill. And I'd like to also recognize and compliment East Ramapo School District as well as Central School District. They've been more than gracious letting us use their facilities. So it's as alive as we can possibly make it.
Chief, you mentioned, so you're doing with ambulance corps, community groups, and working with the school district and the fire departments as
Yes,
well?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We also went to a community forum on police-civilian interactions that was sponsored by the District Attorney's Office at RCC, and it was probably a byproduct of things that are occurring nationally about deaths in police custody and shooting of unarmed civilians and things like that. And once again, the district attorney spearheaded that, and it was well attended and well received. As you know, Mr. Supervisor, we went to a DARE-sponsored night at Boulder Stadium, and I can't tell you how Darren was well received. I think he was probably more popular than the umpires that night.
Yeah.
And the last two things I'd like to mention is that we went up to the suffering seniors at 41 Washington Avenue, the district attorney, myself, and we talked about the scams and other issues. And I'm going to ask, I think it was Mr. Klein, perhaps someone else on the board, we had these scam booklets translated by Suffern School District, by the seniors in Suffern School, to Haitian and Yiddish. And we went up, Captain Wydell went up and gave all the students that participated a recognition. We also sent a letter to the school board recognizing 3 teachers that participated and assisted. So what we haven't had Yiddish done, but your liaison, Shirley Kahan, is working on that, and we plan on having that completed. I'll only tell you shortly.
Okay.
But I think it was Mr. Klein, but perhaps someone else had suggested where we could exhibit these booklets. We've had probably about 500 now that we've disseminated to all our seniors, but I think there was other locations in the town that might be advantageous to our residents to pick up a booklet. So I don't know if it was you,
The
Michael, or
libraries
not.
and various other places?
Office of the Aging,
And Office of
Where
the
was it?
Aging?
Rockland County Office of the Aging, and they have a whole network that they can distribute relevant literature to.
They know me well over there. Yeah. Okay. Easy, Fran, easy. Okay. Is there any other location that?
Well, I think maybe the library, Sloatsburg, Suffern,
Okay.
Finkelstein, and Spring Valley.
Libraries.
And we could probably have some at the clerk's office as well.
We'll do that.
Okay.
We'll certainly distribute the first 2 that, we'll have 3, the one in English, Haitian, and Spanish, and then once we get to Yiddish, we'll just
Put
do the same
that in.
circuit.
Yep.
Okay. Number 2 on the agenda is I'd like to have authorization to have Captain Wydell attend a land navigation course. Captain Wydell's here, and he'll be glad to explain what the course is and if there is any cost involved to the town.
Good morning. The course is sponsored by the New York State Office of Homeland Security at the State Police, it's not the State Police, but the State Training Ground for Law Enforcement in Ocean, New York. It's a program that's designed to teach you how to traverse areas that are not properly marked. For instance, all of our parkland, wooded areas, Caffey Park is an example. A lot of it, although the course was set up for the issues that occurred at the town of Mora, a lot of it is related to properly coordinating the search in areas that are not marked for an escapee, for a missing or endangered individual. It's designed to teach you the proper use of compass, topographic maps, and all the different tools you would have to use if in fact we had something like that occur. There's no cost to the municipality other than fuel and tolls. To get there, they pay for everything else, the lodging and of course the training. So that's basically it. There's a lot more information available if you want to get it to you. It's very limited. Originally the course was closed. It's a small group, and I applied for it. I was able to get in when an opening occurred, so it closes up very quickly. It's to a training course where you actually, if the town is inclined, you would actually go back and then engage in the actual search for people that escaped or on the loose, that kind of thing.
We've had many instances where we have done that already, so it's good to be able to, have grids and those types of things that we can set up, and using, especially outside. I can remember one that went through the winter, went through a snowstorm where I think it was now Detective Proctor, was chasing somebody who was a EDP.
Cases, Mr. Supervisor, I have vivid recollection of the case in Cathcart Park. We worked with the Sheriff's Department on it, and it was very difficult because once you're off the trail there, it's very hard to navigate through that area. We had a unfortunate case where an individual was missing. We had a large search, and was unfortunately found deceased. So it does occur in the town, and it'd be good to have those still available.
Great. Thank you, Captain.
We don't need anything on that, right, Mr.
No,
Supervisor?
no.
Okay. The third is a DARE program. We would like to advise the board that we are now expanding our DARE program to include Viola and Montebello schools. Up until this point in time, Suffern Police Department supplied the DARE program, and effective in September, we will be supplying the DARE program to both those schools. We've been in touch with not only the school superintendent, but the principals of each school. Tracy Magaletta will be delivering that service to those schools. I know you and Mrs. Hunt have been to many of the graduations that Tracy has conducted, and we believe she's so well received by the schools. She was a perfect follow-up to our previous DARE officer, Chris Dodger, who I guess graduated, you may say, up to being a school resource officer. So I don't
So
think
we
it's going to
do.
add
So we
any
do
burden.
Cherry Lane, Viola now, and Sloatsburg. Now we'll do Montebello and Viola.
Yes. Cherry,
So
not only that, we had Limekill School, and so
Right.
she'll have about 6 schools, and there's a possibility down the
The El
line
Dorado.
that we may incorporate El Dorado and Fleetwood, who's Spring Valley DARE handles that. And when and if that time comes, we may be approaching the board to see about having a second DARE officer. But right now, I think we can handle both schools. As I mentioned, Chris Dodger is now a school resource officer in high school. Perhaps he'd be able to take a class for us at one of the new schools we just acquired. But I think they'll find that they're going to be well received. I think the students are going to be will benefit from our involvement.
Chief, Chris Dodrell did a great job on that program, and I think Keith Schwartz before that, but Tracy Magaletta is doing fantastic.
Excellent.
And I know, and you and I and Commissioner Hunter are there at those DARE events. They care. Kids care more about Tracy Magaletta than they do about us. And now
they sure like me a little
Darren,
bit, you know what I mean, but-
the Darren the Lion they care about, but. The kids look great with the at graduation. They all have their T-shirts on, their graduation T-shirts, and they really look sharp. It's a great program.
And you can see the energy. You can't put the smile on the kid's face.
Absolutely,
right?
and the
they do great.
teachers that I
Right.
talk to and the
Yes.
principals, they are speak very highly of Tracy Magaletta.
Next, we have an authorization to have 2 of our retired police officers purchase their duty weapons. We've done this in the past. That is a procedure to be followed. I believe that the board may be familiar with it. We have to.
So that would be item 1E. I'll take a motion on that. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. And 1F, moved
Yes.
by Councilwoman Charles, seconded by Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Supervisor. Next 2 items, items 5 and 6, tuition reimbursement for Detective Sergeant Brian Corbett and Officer Thomas Carroll. They've submitted the documents. I think that you have the documents in your packet. Detective Sergeant Corbett attended the constitutional law and the criminal justice system and introduction to computer technology. And
Okay.
Officer Carroll, strategic thinking and law enforcement intelligence.
Okay, we'll take them separately.
Yeah, I
Chief,
have one
Michael?
issue with these. We entered into a memorandum of understanding with the PBA just recently And in that memorandum of understanding, it clearly reinforces the fact that the officers are supposed to seek prior approval before the courses are taken. I don't have a problem ultimately approving these because I think they've fulfilled their obligations in explaining why they're police-related. But I think we should have an understanding with the PBA first that approval of these without prior approval doesn't negate the fact that officers in the future have to come to the board before they take the courses, not afterwards.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we consider this an initial notification to this board? And council, why don't you go back to the PBA and get the same memorandum of understanding for these two, and we'll do the reimbursement in August?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
okay? Is that all right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Is that good, Michael?
That's fine.
I agree, it's been an issue that they, it's not the first time it's happened.
And these may have been in that interim period where they were taken and done before the memorandum of understanding, but I think we should clarify that. So I'd rather have that done so that it doesn't become an issue in the future.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor and the board, that's all I have for this part of the program.
Okay.
But I do have a few things.
All right, we do have two other things on our agenda, Chief. One is the social media monitoring. We'll do that in executive session.
Yes, sir.
And the other is the authorization for the police captains to attend the land navigation course. We do have that on the agenda, what the captain spoke about. So a motion on 1B, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Okay. Next, you're good, Chief?
The only other issues I have, I would like to discuss personnel matters in executive session.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes. Moved by Councilman Charles, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Chris, that was for the regular minutes of June 24th. Next is our town attorney. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We have a number of resolutions involving agreements. The first of these is an agreement by which the town will receive additional New York State reimbursement for snow plowing based on the harsh winter that has passed.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The County of Rockland, based on the next resolution, will reimburse the town $4,337 for what's called PRD training, and this resolution approves that reimbursement.
Moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
New Beginnings has asked for an additional $3,000 in funding. If the board wishes, this resolution authorizes that additional funding.
How much did they get from before? How much did they, this additional funding, how much did they get before?
Well, why don't we find out what they got before and where they are now, and we can talk about it further. All right?
Okay, so we'll table that. The next resolution I suggest we actually table. This is for, this is a request by a developer to have permission to put a portion of a driveway, curbs, and garbage enclosure in the town's right-of-way. I don't believe, however, this has been reviewed by either the building department or by DPW.
Then we'll
So-
table that. That's not ripe for coming to the board yet. Okay?
The next resolution is the approval of a consultant agreement with Teresa Reek. This will be based on an hourly fee and will continue through December 31st, 2015, following her retirement as a town department head.
Okay, this will result in a savings to the town of approximately $30,000 as well. And we've worked with the union on this, and the union has agreed to this. All right? Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
I believe the board is aware that Mr. Lynch in my office has been working with the Samuel Road issues involving the town of Clarkstown. To proceed with this litigation, or potential litigation, it's necessary that we engage a traffic consultant. The town's normal traffic consultant also does work with Clarkstown and therefore is conflicted from doing this. So we've solicited a proposal by a Brian M. O'Rourke, who was recommended by Mr. Lynch as the firm that would be beneficial to assist the town in proceeding with this matter.
Mike, did you talk to the engineer about maybe negotiating a better price?
I was told that this is the best price that we can get.
You're okay with it?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. You know, the next item is something we spoke about the last two meetings, about a $15,000 contribution to working with the 7 counties in the region for the Upstate Revitalization Initiative. It's now been passed by and signed by the governor. The Upstate Revitalization Initiative plan makes $1.5 billion available for one of the 7 regions. 3 regions have been excluded from participating in this: New York City, Long Island, and Western New York. Western New York had already received the Buffalo billion. So the 7 remaining regionals in the state will be able to vie for this $1.5 billion. And 3 of the 7 will receive $500 million each. That will go toward a myriad of economic plans. Over the next 5 years, it'd be $100 million. And this is on top of the regular monies. You know, this year our region received $88 million. We needed to, the region needed to hire Patterns for Progress. In this process, it was prohibited to use state money, so different municipalities and entities are putting in funds, and our portion is $15,000.
It's a grant or we're paying them?
We're paying them to.
Why does it say it's a grant?
We're giving them this grant money to, as we would other entities,
No,
to
we're
provide this service.
Behind them as a consultant or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not a grant.
Well, I didn't write that, the approval of the grant. They would be a consultant for this grant program.
Or like a lobbyist to help town projects get.
It's not just for our town, it's for the whole region, and they will be putting together the entire plan that needs to be submitted by I think, October 5th. And so
Any other governments? And which other local governments are participating?
in our region, I think Yonkers is put in, and just most of some of the other counties as well.
Towns in the county?
No, but we are the largest town in the region.
So when
No other towns
pay
in.
and then they profit.
Yeah. All right, moved by Councilwoman Charles, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers.
Nebraska has a lot of time on his hands. Why won't he contribute or help something?
Well,
He'll get the credit when
Well.
the county comes and wins it because of it, but I'll go with it. I'll move it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? It's seconded by Charles. Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carried unanimously. Go ahead, Michael.
The next resolution, I think we should put on later in the agenda. Mr. Nachum Lebowitz, our insurance consultant, is expected to be here to discuss with the board his proposal for new specific excess workers' compensation insurance.
And he believes that he may have found a small savings there
Yeah,
as
so
well.
we're expecting him to show up
Okay.
this morning, so we can put that on for later. in the
So
agenda.
when we're going to have to, at some point, go to the executive session when we come out. If there's any votes, would have to be taken in a regular session, so we will do those. We'll have him at that point.
Yeah, he expected to perhaps get another quote this morning, that's why,
Oh, good.
Things are kind of last minute with that. The next 2 resolutions involve settlement of tax certiorari actions, one with Consolidated Edison and one with Orange and Rockland. We have arranged for Mr. Goldman, if the board wishes, to be on a conference call during executive session to discuss the settlement of this litigation, so I think that may be most appropriate.
Okay.
And
So
Mr. Shedler is not here today, so I think Mr. Goldman would be appropriate. person
we'll
to-
discuss those in executive session and vote afterwards. Okay?
3D on the agenda, it accepts $229 as reimbursement for expenses incurred by the town for towing.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Mr. Shedler has recommended, based on 3E on the agenda, that the town approve a correction of errors whereby a cemetery property was improperly assessed for special districts, and this would basically eliminate those special district charges for the relevant year.
So do we get reimbursed all the way from 2009?
get reimbursed. It's just that the,
The special districts are stopped at this point.
correct.
Okay.
They should not have paid the special district taxes.
As you remember, that's the Duran Cemetery. It's a revolutionary cemetery, and we went in and we redid that cemetery, cleaned it up, and put a retaining wall. That was about 10 years ago, and it's still looking great. So Highway Department did a great job there. Okay, this is to correct the errors for the 2009 assessment roll on 23 Teokan Road. Moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
It's been recommended to the town board by Michael Galante, our traffic consultant, that signs be installed by Grove Street and Augusta Avenue. So this resolution would adopt those recommendations of Mr. Galante.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
3G, I think we should table till Mr. Shedler is here.
Okay.
Because he has a recommendation as to who we should use for appraisals for one.
We'll table that.
And I believe that's it.
Okay. And we have an item personnel. Linda Condon, our Director of Personnel.
Hello. We had previously discussed we had an employee who had been in a provisional position, although she's 40-95, she's not reachable. So we're going to have to bump her back to her previous position. So this reestablishes her previous position. That's A.
Okay, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
And the second, Part B, actually puts her back to her old position.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. We have a couple things under new business.
Yeah, if I can bring up one.
Okay.
This was discussed previously with the board by Mr. Shedler. This involves a company called GAR. Mr. Shedler has recommended, along with Mr. Goldman, that the town engage a study to be done which would assist us in reassessing certain properties and also provide insulation in case there would be a lawsuit challenging the assessment methodology Mr. Shedler's office has been using. So this proposal is for professional services at a fee not to exceed $40,000. And again, I believe this was discussed with Mr. Goldman and with Mr. Shedler with the board previously.
Yes.
This focuses on a big lots, correct?
No. This is on all.
Conference call that we had last meeting?
One of the issues was involving properties which are, the ability to reassess properties where there's been a change in use or a zone change for those properties. That's one of the issues that would be addressed by the study. But it's not limited to that. It's more comprehensive. And this is in conformity with certain criticisms of municipalities that have been contained in recent court cases. So this basically would give a justification for reassessing certain properties based on a comprehensive plan that's been commissioned by the town as justification for those changes.
Does anybody, Supervisor, do you know why Scott is not here?
He's on vacation. But if we do have Mr. Goldman on the phone during the executive session, we could put this to executive session, ask him questions, and vote on it. So when people have,
We had a conference call last meeting, we weren't here.
yeah.
I think it's in the conference call, no one really called.
Well, that's the way it goes with assessing.
Speak for everybody, but
Yeah, yeah.
no.
It's assessing has its own language and its own world, but we have been very successful in working through the assessment process, and I think that the agreement that Mr. Goldman will talk about with Con Edison and with Orange and Rockland will show how much we are on the forefront of it within the whole state on the assessing process. So why don't we ask Mr. Goldman about this in executive session and ask, clear up any other questions, all right?
That would be fine. And I do have a couple of items litigation-related for executive session as well.
Okay. I have a couple items. One is the Boy Scouts of America, as they did last year, want to camp out on the front lawn here at the town hall, and it's to raise awareness on homeless and on food programs. So we need to have a resolution allowing them to camp overnight on the front lawn.
Do we have something to Rick's going to supervise?
Yeah, we'll have the doors open, so if they need to use the bathrooms.
Mr. Supervisor, I have one item.
You want to move this one for me?
Yeah.
Moved
Yeah.
and seconded by Councilman Ullman. Yeah.
Supervisor, members of the board, I had spoken to you in executive session in reference to Heather Bowie. Last year, we had 2 deaths on our golf committee. I'd like to fill one of the positions of the vacancies in the golf committee with a Heather Bowie of 10 Bonnier Circle in Suffern. Heather is an avid golfer, a local young woman who started an all-state business in Suffern, insurance program down in Lafayette. She's well received and an avid golfer who I believe will be a benefit to the golf committee and to the golf course and the town of Racco. I'd like to have her support to put her on the golf committee.
Absolutely. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. And her Heather, B-O-W-I-E. Okay. And I believe Mike
The resume is pretty impressive.
Mike Kennedy, whose father-in-law was the champ for several years at the golf course.
Excuse
Chief?
me, Supervisor, do you have a date for that overnight for the Boy Scouts, so I could make sure that my officers are aware of that? I could get it
Yeah, no,
time.
yes, I do, Chief.
Okay.
Yeah, I may even have it right here. Let me just see. I'll get it for you.
I'll get it another
before-
time.
but I know I have it before, when we go into
No problem.
executive session. I must have left that in my office.
No problem.
The actual date. Oh, I see. This may be it here. No. Okay.
Okay, we'll get it.
We'll
Thank
get
you,
it at
sir.
the executive
Thank
session.
you.
Did you have any other items for new business? So what we're going to take public participation now, and then we'll go into an executive session. Mr. Romanowski, come up. When we go into executive session, we'll take the police.
Robert Romanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie. In a recent court ruling, the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division ruled that the votes cast in the September 30th, 2014 ward referendum vote will be counted. When the count is conducted, I hope that it will be an open process that can be observed. This can be accomplished by hiring the Rockland County Board of Elections to do the canvassing of the entire vote, because they are needed anyway to do the machine count. They will be neutral in their work as required by law, and they do not have an interest in the result. Also, they are very experienced and knowledgeable in canvassing votes because this is their job 5 days a week. I would request that this board approve a resolution hiring the Rockland County Board of Elections to count the entire votes cast in the September 30th, 2014 ward referendum vote. And while I'm here, just one other question I want to make on the police matters here. You're sending a police captain to attend a land navigation course in Oriskany, New York. Wouldn't it be also a good idea to send your canine officer there? I think that would be a valuable thing for him to do too, since his dog may take him any place off a trail or any place else, and he may need to, find his way back. So I think that you should maybe consider sending your canine officer to the same land navigation course in Oriskany, New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. Anyone else? Mr. Dent. Chief, that date would be August 28th and August 29th. And they will arrive around 4 p.m. and start making their homes out of cardboard boxes. That night and the following morning, we would be by the Walmart and ShopRite
Excuse
trying
me.
to get canned goods.
Excuse me, Mr. Supervisor, my talk is specifically directed at the chief. This is the 4th time he's disrespected this body by walking out. May I wait until he comes back
No,
so
you
that
have-
I
you
can
have the
address
floor.
him?
You have the floor and you have 3 minutes, but...
Then I have no time to really address the issue. Okay, fine.
No, Mr. Dent, your comments will be taken
That's
down.
disgraceful.
in
What
the
he's
minutes.
done is a disgrace and a disrespect to this body, the police department, the town of Ramapo, and the United States of America. This man is a treasonous traitor. He's betrayed his own police department, he's betrayed the town of Ramapo, and he's betrayed his country.
I'm not going to listen to some public policy.
You can do, thank you.
That's disrespectful.
Thank you. Now, you know, in reference to incident report 0948245, as you know, I've gone to the same police academy, I've studied the same police laws, and I have carried the same bullets with the same power as he has. And I simply asked this man to hear my side of the issues that I had, but instead, he met with a complainant who, when she found out that I had gone to the human rights and they had taken the case, and after seeing my evidence, they advised me to keep my evidence in a safe place, not home. I wonder why. But anyway, when she found out about that, she came to me with a hat in her hands and begged me to drop the case and could we start anew. And in the interest of trying to make the peace, we did make peace, and they were good for about a year until they violated my property again with an attorney who got into a physical altercation with me, who actually assaulted me, and I ripped his shirt when I threw him physically off my property. I called the police. He took off running. I told my wife to follow him to find out where he's at, and he didn't come to the door and answer, and he was in the house, and I've seen this before. But I've seen a lot of corruption in this town. And I've also had, you know, I'm glad to hear that the chief is talking about looking to get out. Don't look to get out. Put in your papers and become the bad memory that you are. Because he has betrayed this town. And there's no question about it. And he's betrayed the civilians in it. I pay $19,000 a year for living in this town. Let somebody else have a shot at the ludicrous salary that he's getting. You know, I have a lot of questions here, but no real time to really address the issues. And there are things that need to be addressed. The only good thing is that when we did meet with the FBI, we were surprised to find out they knew everything we knew. And now they'll be clearing the dockets after the 20 years that's hanging over the last one is done. And they'll be free to pursue what they need to pursue here as per their raid 1 month after they started their investigation into the corridors of corruption. Your chief, your present chief needs some serious looking into. Why would he? You have a copy here, Chris, I've given you. You have a copy. Why would a chief in that position bias his police force by allowing his name on an incident report siding with the complainant? Why would he do that? That is a disgrace, and it biased his own police force against me so that I had to fight every issue. But let me tell you something. I really am grateful for every kick in the pants I've ever had in my life because it's made me come back stronger and smarter. And I've learned a heck of a lot. All right? And
Thank you.
You know, this is incredible. It really is incredible. The stuff that I've learned, that I've been able to share, you know, I won some usable land. I was sued for $1 million, all right? And I was charged with all the things my attorneys told me, don't worry about it, Rudy. You know the law. I know what your situation is, and you haven't done anything that you have to worry about being sued. Wrong, all right? There is an element that has no respect for the law whatsoever. And they can flip the script and just make it up as they go along. And I was charged with doing all the things that my persecutors were doing to me. I have dealt with 7 lawyers, and I've dealt with people who are in this town recognized leaders. I had one who called the police and tried to get me arrested, and when he found out that the Ramapo police were not responding, but the Clarkstown police were responding, he took off running, and then he had to present himself to the court the next day for the things he tried to charge me with. And then I was advised by the other people who were working on the situation not to show up in court to testify against him because they had another agenda with some legal issues that they were going to do, but they didn't do anything, and he walked, and he's currently acting as an official. So 7 lawyers I've dealt with. I dealt with one with a name that is a pornographic name, Liquor something, and I have him on video and audio in terms of criminal trespass, extortion, attempted harassment. He even attempted to coerce one of your police officers, whom I have to say, to his credit, stood up to him and made him get...
You've been allowed twice the amount of time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dent. Thank you.
The corruption is rampant, and something needs to be done about it, and I hope the chief does resign.
Thank you, Mr. Dent. Anybody else in the public would like to speak? Motion to close the public participation. Moved by Councilman Withers, second by Councilman Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Did the insurance person come yet?
No, but we received word he's on his way.
All right, so he'll have to wait until after the executive session, and then when we come back.
Now, we do have a conference call for executive session. I think it's probably physically better if we do it.
Where the phones are,
where
since they're
everyone
multiple.
is set up, and then
Okay.
come back here to conclude the meeting.
All right, a motion to go into executive session for contracts and personnel
And litigation.
and litigation. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Supervisor St. Lawrence. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, we're in executive session. We'll come back here to the council room at the end of the executive session. Okay, Jack, we are back in the public portion, and we'll get started in a moment.
Okay.
Do you remember that list? That's what my last one was. That's a list of tones and No, but do you remember that? Because you got it.
gave us a
Yeah.
list.
Do you want to copy of it or not? Do you have a list of some that you? Yeah, gotcha. Yes, so why don't you, yeah. Why don't you give me a little prompt, each one, and, I'm in order 1, workers' comp 2, Orange and Rockland 3, Con Ed 3, Orange and Rockland 4, GAR 5, resolution on the appeal 6, and then the bonding. Okay.
You have Eckerson Lane?
Eckerson Lane after the bonding will be the injunction on, go for injunctive relief at Eckerson Lane, 8 Eckerson Lane. Their time's coming up soon. They're 2 years.
No, we'll ratify that next time.
Did we say Holmes? The appeal, did we say that?
Holmes, yeah, that's the Holmes appeal is the resolution of appeals number 6.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, the first item on the agenda after our executive session was the resolution for New Beginnings Dignity Services, request for additional funding of $3,000, moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. The second item on the agenda was the acceptance of the proposal for excess workers' comp insurance, moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Third on the agenda was the settlement of Con Ed, moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Next on the agenda was settlement of Orange and Rockland tax certiorari, moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Next on the agenda was the contract with GAR for the assessing, moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Excuse me.
Yep.
That's on your son.
The GAR proposal? No.
Yeah,
what-
No, it is not.
No. All right. And now we have the refunding of the 2005 existing bond. By the refunding, will save over $370,000 to the town for the life of the bond. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. Roll call.
Councilman Withers?
Yes.
Councilman Charles?
Yes.
Councilman Friedman?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman? Yes. Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution for we're purchasing the street lights in the town of Ramapo from Orange and Rockland, and we've gone through that settlement, and it's a motion for a bond for $500,000 for these street lights. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. On the question, we'll do a roll call vote on that.
Councilman Withers?
Yes.
Councilman Charles?
Yes.
Councilman Friedman?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman? Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Yes. The next item is a bond for $120,000 for the technology department for new technology equipment. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. Roll call.
Yes.
Councilman Charles?
Yes.
Councilman Friedman? Yes. Councilman Ullman? Yes. Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Yes. The next item is $220,000 for paving of streets, existing streets. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers.
Councilman Withers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Charles?
Yes.
Councilman Friedman?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman? Yes. Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Yes. The next bond is $660,000 for park embellishments. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers.
Councilman Withers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Charles?
Yes.
Councilman Friedman?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman? Yes. Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Yes. The next item is the bond for heavy equipment of $80,000.
Councilman Withers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Charles?
Yes.
Councilman Friedman?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman? Yes. Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Yes. And the next and last bond is for police vehicles. It is $340,000.
Lewis?
Yes.
Councilman Charles?
Yes.
Councilman Freeman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Councilman Ullman? Yes. Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Yes, and that was moved by Councilman Ullman and seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. And then we have another resolution, which is a resolution concerning 8 Eckerson Lane, where, Counsel, I'll let you read this.
Yes, this authorizes the town attorney's office to commence an injunction action regarding that property.
Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor, or second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay. And motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Friedman, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.